Well, hello, everybody. It's Kara again from 9 Lives Paranormal, and I am sitting with Jay, who is the director and producer of one of our official selections of the Hollow Hag. And so I would like to introduce to you, your mic is on, Jay. Yeah, your mic is off. You're still on mute. There you go. So anyway, I'd like her to introduce herself to you, and then we can get right into the movie. So go ahead. Let's talk about you.
Hi, you guys. My name is Jay Najeeah. I am the writer and director and co-producer of Hag, which is a queer Southern Gothic about Gullah Geechee folklore.
Now, when you say queer Southern Gothic and the folklore, expand a little bit on that for us.
Yeah, totally. This film follows this queer couple of these two women who are having their first child together, and our protagonist Risa is being haunted by this urban legend I grew up with. I'm from South Carolina, called the Boo Hag. So this creature is quite literally taking all her energy and her spirit in this time of her being pregnant. So where I'm using this urban legend that I grew up with, I'm certain is real, and sending it to a wider audience. I think a lot of people have heard about this urban legend, so I'm really intent on sharing this folklore that I grew up with.
I think it's fantastic because I don't know about you, but when we look at some of our horror films and the tropes that are in the horror films, right? We have our vampire, we have our wolfman, we have our zombie, we have our possessions, we have all that. But in terms of personal folklore and cultural folklore, there's really not that much out there. And if we saw it, we wouldn't recognize it because it might not be something that we identify with, right? So for example, in the work that, I do as a paranormal investigator and coming from an Italian background, there are Italian, folklore and little demons and gremlins that, that live in your fireplace and things like that or whatever. But if I brought that out to a wider audience, right, they wouldn't know unless I gave that background. And one of the things that you do so beautifully, I think, in the film is that you do that, you do have the spirit trees with the blue, and you do have, the influence. We'll just start from so. But as I was saying, a lot of the cultural folklore, we reach back to our ancestors and we bring it forward, even though the folklore has been forgotten, the tradition stays, and we live it every day, but we don't know why. We just accept it as true,
Yeah. It's very important to me. I am also a Howard University MFA film alum. And one of the big things we learned was this term Sankofa. We, of course, talking about Haile Gerima in his film Sankofa, but we learned this was like so ingrained in me to move forward, you must look back. So right. Being able to hold on to, like, as a Black woman, being able to hold on to what I had as a Southerner and what my grandmother told me, what her mother told her, and be able to take that forward with me, I feel it's like completely vital to the work that I do. And it's made me, one, a better artist, but two, just generally a better person, because I'm honoring not only myself, but the people behind me.
Yeah, and I think your film does a phenomenal job of that too, in honoring history, and legacy in the family. It reaches to the past and it brings it all the way to the future. And the common thread is the culture and the folklore, and that binds everybody together. And even in Risa's, partner, she really wasn't on board in the beginning, but then that brought her into the fold, and I really enjoyed what you did there with it, and weaving them all together towards towards the end or whatever. But I had a question about that, but not really a question, but another observation about it. So when we're talking about the film, and we're talking about the tradition of it, was it hard for you to cast it the way that you did? I always ask this because you're looking for a certain chemistry between people, right? You're looking for a certain chemistry, and you're looking for also, with this film specifically, shared purpose. So was it hard? Was it hard to cast it at all, or?
It's so funny you asked that, because the casting process for this film was so interesting. For one, Risa and Kari were actually both the first people to audition for the role, and through so many people, but ended up, we kept coming back to them for that couple, and their chemistry read was so perfect. They definitely followed each other as far as acting goes. And then even going into that, looking at Myra's character, she actually is so full circle. She actually is a professor emeritus at College of Charleston, where my mother went to school. Wow. And so she taught my mother while she was pregnant with me. So I've known this woman my entire life. And I remember when I was an undergrad, I said, I have a theater undergrad and then the master's in film. And I remember talking to her when I interviewed her for a project I was to work with you. And she was like, you will. And come around for the thesis. And I'm like, I need you on this film. And it was never a question that she was coming.
Hold on, that's the deer. Take it away, Cal.
He's the song.
Okay. I think I was gonna ask. So I saw that for my researchings, you were involved, or Julie Dash at least, like donated or participated some way in your thesis. So what was that like? Was she your professor, or how did that?
No, actually, this is so funny. Actually, before Twitter became what it was, I had a Twitter, and one of my mentors, Sakia Dorset, who is an amazing filmmaker, she reached out to her on Twitter and was like, you should talk to her. And she followed me on Twitter, and we talked for a bit, and I sent her the part to like look at it. And I was like, if you can donate, that's awesome. But just for you to talk about the film as we move forward. And she donated to the film. And as someone who is obsessed with Daughters of the Dust, because that's like one of the first times I ever saw myself and my culture on screen, that meant everything to me, to be able to push what I am and the stories that have already come before me, the ones that I compare to talk about my film, actually want to see my film move forward, meant literally everything to me.
Oh, that's cool. So have you been able to keep in touch with her?
Sometimes I've talked to her once or twice. She's very busy. I'm hoping that once I get some backing for the feature for this film, because what y'all have here is the proof of concept, that I'll be able to talk with her again and get some advice from her, artist to artist.
And how's the feature coming along? I did have a question about that too. So with the short, like, you only have so much time, so you can't really expound on like the whole folklore and everything like that. So how do you plan on doing that with your feature?
Yeah, so it's funny because the script is actually already done. I had started with this feature script, and this film was my thesis film to graduate from Howard. And a group, what's the word I'm looking for? The chair of my committee for my thesis, she stopped me. I was ready to do the feature just straight out, and she stopped me and said, "Just wait." And she made me cut the feature down from 65 pages, 30 pages to 15 pages, and we took that 15 pages and made the proof of concept. So now I have proof that I'm able to tell this story, and I have the possibility to do as such. So, and I think I'm all the better for it. So shout out Johnny Rambaran for allowing me to tell this story, but also set myself up to properly give it its due.
And then, so are you, how's the fundraising going for? I assume you're raising funds.
So yeah, we're in the process of trying to find funding and backing. We haven't gone back to like Seed and Spark or Kickstarter yet because we want to have something beneath us before we go that route. I'm looking at talking with other people, finding more funding in ways that is less grassroots. So I'm not harassing my whole entire family again to get funding. Um, as well as doing a ridiculous amount of events for the film. When we first launched our crowdfunding campaign for the film, I partnered with a lot of the community spaces here in DC. So I was doing events at this bar called As You Are, which is a queer cafe and bar upstairs, and I made cocktails that were pointed towards the film, and we talked about the story. We showed the comparables. We talked with so many people. Oh my gosh! And I want this round. I want something more firm. Because not only am I out of school now, so it's a whole different ballgame, but I also want something that will stand the test of time. So I want to make sure I'm as intentional as I can be with this story, and I give it all of its due.
Absolutely. Like I said before, I think it all has the elements, to be a full feature. Now, and I don't want to give it away, but if as you go through, like you said, you cut it down and it's going to be a full feature, or is there anything in the film that, in terms of its main storyline and thread, that you're going to have to change, or that's going to change? Or are we gonna, the bones are gonna be there, the same bones, and we're just gonna have fill it in and make it a little,
the bare bones of the story is what you see in the proof of concept. I flesh it out far more in this story, and there's a lot more emotional depth to all the characters, not just Teresa, our lead, and all the characters. Because it's very important to me that the women, because the story, of course, is about folklore, but it's also about women and how women support each other. So I want to make sure not only is this matriarch character that we see in Myra she has her own version of a support system that she has to also lean on. We're not by ourselves, and being able to show that, for lack of better words, I don't want to play into the strong Black woman trope. I want these women to be able to be vulnerable and have that community around them to talk about what it is they need to be the people that they are.
That's a good point. I think, that's a fine line between, being strong and being vulnerable. And part of your vulnerability is what makes you strong, right? If you can step into your vulnerability, it's just your confidence and your strength as a woman. I think, I think that's something we own, as women in general, to be able to do that. But I think that even when I was watching it, those little threads of the depth and the strength were coming through in their own way, every single one of them. And I was able to, looking at the three characters, I was able to pick out, not so much how they were going to react in the situation, because I was able to tap into, just from what you gave me, that vulnerability and that strength, So it was really, really well done. Did you have anything, Calix, that you want to talk about? I forgot. We went through all these questions together, and then it's like, oh, here we are.
I think I asked my questions largely.
Okay, so
Right.
that leaves me. And I could go forever. I can talk paint off walls. So, and that being said, in terms of setting, did you have to scout a location, or was that something local to you that you were able to use? That was, did you have to rent an Airbnb, or you know what I mean?
So we did scout a lot. So one of the locations is in Old Town Alexandria. I couldn't afford to shoot in South Carolina. My intention with the picture is to shoot the entirety of it in the Sea Islands. So in South Carolina, in Georgia, in those areas, being able to use the historical landmarks of the South to tell this story properly, especially with things like the Angel Oak Tree, that cultural stuff around. We shot all the home scenes were shot in Alexandria. We had to get a permit for a forest, which is the park, in Hyattville, where I'm living currently. And then one of our locations turned out on us. They kind of just turned us away. So one of the scenes, we had to revamp my apartment and turn it into a therapist office. So, but we made it work. We made it work.
That's what you do. You just make it work, right? So, well, I was wondering about that, because it was, in terms of the forest and all that, I was like, I wonder how she got it, and how she did it. And I had questions about that. But then again, I'm looking at the film, from the technical side, like on how it was all put together,
That's always the hard part. That scene is all ADR, because we could not shoot with sound, because we had to have a generator outside for the lights, as well as a generator for the fog machine. So we had to go in post and literally mark each of her footsteps to get the crunching leaves. We had to get her to do that same scream after we turned off all the generators. We had to go piece by piece and collect this story in multiple ways, visually, auditorily, and like psychologically. There's so many things that happen in that story, and I also want to make sure that my actors are always safe when doing things like that. So be mindful of what's happening and how we can send it forward, and it still be the thing I saw in my head.
Right. Yeah, that scene where it all culminates pretty much at the end. It's intense. It really is intense.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, yeah, we changed that blocking so many times, because as a theater person, and I have training in fight choreo, but I did not want to cause further harm to my actors in doing that scene. And I also my producer and I had a long talk about how that scene was going to look, because at first we intended on full SFX, having this like slice on her stomach and doing all these like gory, morbid things. I realized that the horror is not in what you see, but it's in what you don't see. So in that same way you do in the theater, I wanted to give it that due in that same way. And that was interesting to figure out. Camera movement and acting for the characters.
Right. Now we've been talking about a lot of the folklore or whatever. We did not go into the hag, believe it or not. So explain what exactly the hag is, and how it attaches and does the energy suck, and explain that.
No, absolutely. So this is a Gullah Geechee, for lack of a better word, cryptid or urban legend. When you are at your weakest, they will try to come in to your homes, which is why you have the bottles, the salt on the windowsill, the things to stop the entry. And they will quite literally, which is where that phrase comes from the South, when they say, don't let it ride you, it'll quite literally sit itself on top of your chest and suck the energy from you. So it's sort of like a breath vampire, to explain it to people who don't know what this creature is, as well as something that will take your skin and ride it for the night. So you end up with this exhaustion on you that you're unable to get rid of, because it's using not only your breath but your energy and stealing it for its own.
Got it. Yeah, and it's interesting. I always say, for every little piece of folklore, there's a little bit of truth. And I always say that because entities, cryptids like that, transcend culture to culture to culture. So in my own personal life, and I'm sure in your personal life, we've seen instances where we see somebody and we're like, it's right in your heart, it's bringing you down. You're not the same. You look, you look drained. You look, and everybody has their own I don't want to use the word remedy, but yeah, you know, their own remedy for it, which, you know, I think that's why I one of the reasons, besides that it was so well executed, is that, you know, I really, like I said, I enjoy that folklore part because I'm so much into, you know, like the cultural folklore of myself, you know, to see and appreciate, like I can appreciate so much what you did with it, you know, because to see, you know, you making this film, like you said, you could see yourself on film and you do it yourself. You know, for me, I don't get that, you know what I mean? You know, for my culture, you know, I don't see the folklore. And it was just so I could appreciate you in that moment, you know, and be happy for you in that moment that this was coming to, you know, to realization, you know. So, so what's on the agenda for you coming up? What are you, besides putting this into the full feature?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for funding for this film, as well as trying to find other ways to move with it. I'm always applying for grants to do my other films. I'm in the process of writing a new feature right now, figuring out what that story is going to be like. Moving, I'm always working on something, always trying to go to another festival, trying to learn more about my craft. Even if I'm out of grad school, I'm never done learning. So I want to make sure that I'm taking the time to watch movies, enjoy what's happening, whenever I can, and take in all the information and the education I can. So the big thing right now is finding funding for the feature for HAG, as well as having time to write this new feature I'm working on. So that's what most of my artistic stuff holds. I'm hoping to get funding for a script that's already done, short film that's a little witchy, a little fun, that I'm hoping to get done. So that's where I am, basically looking for funding for my film, as well as looking for community and collaborators.
That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. Can you give us a little hint on the other one that you're doing?
On the feature?
Yeah.
It's might be about a cult, might be,
could be,
maybe, possibly. Might be about learning how to communicate after somebody's already gone.
Oh, wonderful. But you never know, right?
Who knows? We're only on page 20 of who knows how long the script. Who knows where it'll go?
So, okay, we talked about your film and everything like that. Tell me about you in terms of you, and what are some things that you like to do that are not related to film that, yeah.
That's always hard because it becomes like the entirety of my life. I spend time doing film, but outside of film, I am a makeup artist. I do a lot of special effects makeup on myself and on all my friends' sets, which is also film. But like, you know, I read a lot. I love comic books. I love anime. I love music. I have a huge record collection that I've been slowly ciphering through. I am a plant girl. I have lots of plants. They're all right to the side of this little camera we can see. I don't know. I love dyeing my hair a bunch of random colors. I love tattoos. I love art. Like I think the big thing for me is surrounding myself with art and things that bring me joy. That's my big thing. So yeah.
Awesome. You know, just like, you know, have expression all over the place. We're like, just as us, we're big on tattoos. Like I have them all over. You know, we're big on expression. There you go. That's it. If we ever meet, that's what we'll do. We'll go get ink together. We'll pick something out. But so did you do the makeup for the film, or?
Well, yeah. So I built the original makeup for it, and then I taught our makeup artist, who also was one of my actresses, how to do it, and she did it on set. So I taught her what I learned because I did it on myself first, and then once I cast my actor, Alora Thomas, in the role of the hag, I did it on her, and then once we did it on her, and we had Tierra Mai, who played Dr. Kennedy. Once she was confirmed and was interested in helping in that way as well, we then I taught her how to do the makeup on Allure. And while we were on set, she did the makeup, and I would come in and like, if I didn't like something, I would just touch it up a little bit or add to it. So all the makeup that happens on set, she did, but I started, like I built the groundwork for it.
What was I would think, what was the most difficult scene to shoot?
Difficult in what way?
Well, we said that like the boxing and everything was difficult for the forest or whatever. In difficult in terms of takes.
That's hard, because I'm very much a person, once you get two good takes on a shot, you move. So because I don't want to waste time or waste the energy of my actors who are in a very heavy story. So I think as far as takes, it would be between the forest scene and that scene in the nursery, because it's so emotionally heavy, and both those women are experiencing a very heavy conversation. So I wanted to make sure that they were still mentally sound. I didn't want to cause them any harm,
Right.
In being in such a heavy scene for so long. So being able to make sure, one, that everybody around who's not in the room while we're shooting is not distracting them from the character they're locked into, as well as making sure we're not distracting them by joking around. Because one thing I believe as a director is there is no reason to be mean or yell or be aggressive with your cast and crew. You can be correct and not be mean, which is what I've always done on my set. I lead my sets well, but I don't lead them with an iron fist. You're going to enjoy your time, but you're going to do your work. So being able to have my crew and the actors who are in this scene able to sit and bring it down enough that we can do part of the story that is so emotionally raw for both the characters, knowing the backstories of those characters. It was really important to me to make sure they had the space and their time to do it such. Like for Risa's actor, before she even shot that scene, we made sure to shoot something that she wasn't in before. That's what she had time to ready herself for what that scene would do to her.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's why I asked the question, because the scenes, there are a few of them that are so emotionally intense, and to grab that, to grab that feeling and communicate it to your audience effectively, I was wondering how many takes you would have to go through to capture that feeling, because you're really not, it's more than the words. You're intuiting what they're feeling, and in order to transmute that across to your audience, it must be, like you said, draining and need your space and to lock in, and then give yourself that time to move through it and process it yourself.
100%. I think film especially, we have to look at all of it holistically. You're not just looking at, oh, does it look good? You have to make sure it feels good, it sounds good, it is good, to make it what you want it to be. And I think honoring the energy that actors put into the work, and honoring my crew as well. I think we forget often how much work the crew does. Like I had to make, like, I was making sure people were eating, who were drinking water, were okay with this story, and was anything like hurting them. Whereas my producer, my production manager, and my DP were making sure I ate, because I barely ate on set. I would be running around like, oh, I need to do this. I need to figure this out. How does this look? What's this story how am I going to add to this story? And there are moments where you have to remember, you have to stop. You have to stop. And holding each other accountable in that way, I think made for a better story. We were able to hold space for each other, and we were holding space for each other as well as holding space for the story and the weight of it. Like, I started writing the script when I was 17. It was a very different story when I started writing it, and I needed to, once I finally got back to it at Howard, I realized it was something that needed time, needed space, needed health, needed healing to tell it how it deserves to be told.
Yeah, that great. And honestly, when you were talking about making sure the crew is fed, that not to we just had hit on some heavy points, so I want to add a little bit of levity. But what is your favorite on scene snack?
Oh my God, the crafty. So, so funny because all of my cohort from Howard, we have a running bit about the Welch's fruit snacks. They have to be there no matter what. It does not fail. If they're not there, someone's gonna like beat it. Like it's consistent. And then also I pay attention to what my crew likes. I always have my first AD and my production manager send out, of course, the dietary restrictions, but also like, what's your favorite thing? And like, if I can afford to like add a little, like, oh, they like donuts, we'll do a donut day one of these days. Oh, they like bagels. All of them like coffee. I don't like coffee. I made sure to have coffee on set, no matter what. So water, having things that are healthy, but also having things they like. So they, while they are here doing this intensive work from 8 to 12 hours a day, they're able to still enjoy themselves. And that's why I also only do one pizza a day ever. If you're gonna eat, you're gonna be fed. You're going to have actual food.
Yeah, it's important. it really is.
So yeah, like the fruit snacks, and then also the tangerines. That always is a number one.
Well, once after you do your feature and you move into bigger circles or whatever, you could say, I want fruit snacks, but I only want the purple ones. I want fruit snacks. Only one shaped like bears.
No, because I'm not. I couldn't do it. Even I don't care how famous I ever got. I'd be like, whichever one did you have? Sorry.
Yeah. Seriously, All right. So, unless there's something you wanted to bring up that I forgot.
I think we covered a lot about the film. I'm really glad that I'm a selection at the Hollow. I'm glad for people to see the story. The big thing is being able to share my history, my culture, of people, so they can see it. It's far more of the South. Like I believe it's like in the 90s, Andre 3000 during the MTV Awards, that the South has something to say, and we do. I think right now, especially in light of Sinners coming out and doing so phenomenally well, I'm so like, I don't know the man, but I'm so proud of Ryan Coogler. Being able to see the South in a way that's human and is past the trauma, the racialized trauma we have. I'm excited to see what else can come from other Southern artists. Like I'm excited for what I can do. I know I got plenty to say, but I'm excited for other people to have the opportunity to share who they are and how they grew up.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit about the actual town of Clarksville where they shot Sinners, and that the town is so small. They don't have a movie theater. They have to try to travel 90 minutes outside to even see the film that they were depicted in. And so, I mean, it was very interesting, and to bring and shed light onto those small towns and down south or whatever, I think it's phenomenal. There's just so much that we in other areas like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, that if we don't have roots in that area, that we just don't know. And I think it's a really phenomenal vehicle for, educating everybody and just making the world a little bit smaller so that we understand each other better.
Absolutely. The personal is going personal will always give you the opportunity to see humanity in a wider set. So like it's exciting to me to look at whenever people think whenever people of the South, they think of the South as the small, insular, uneducated, like negative connotation towards the South. There is so much history, culture, creativity in the South, and it's really important to me that the South does get its due, because no matter how, like right now I don't sound like it, but like I'm a country girl, always will be. There's never a doubt about it in my mind. So I always want to make sure that what I grew up with and what upholds me keeps going. I want to keep that. I want to send that forward. I want to share that. I want people who grew up like me to see themselves and be able to create past what they thought they could. Like that, you sometimes in small southern towns, you feel like there's nothing past
Mhm.
you are there. And I want to show that you are well past whatever's there. You are so much more than whatever you think you are. And you can be right there and be in the South and do as such. So
Fantastic. All right. So where can I'm gonna try to put it down on the banner. Where can we reach you at? I mean, I know, but tell me.
you can contact me on Instagram and TikTok at Jay Najeeah, JayNajeeah, as well as on our website, haintblueprod.com. So HAINTPROD.com, and the email haintblueprod@gmail.com.
I'm trying to.
It's lots of stuff, so take your time.
And Hate Blue Pro, and it's haintblueprod.com.
Mm-hmm. And from that Instagram, you'll get the Instagram for Ag and for my production company, Hate Blue Productions. So be plenty of ways to contact me, and I'm always happy to speak with someone.
Let's see if it comes across. Let's see if I did it.
We're gonna find out.
We're gonna find out in a minute.
Not just yet. It's coming. Right there.
There it is. That's how we can get in touch. And if anyone wants to,
It's a period. It's haintblue.prod.
Oh, haintblue.prod. Okay, let's edit. On the Insta?
Yeah, the Instagram is haintblue.prod.
Got it. Let's see if it goes across now.
I believe in it.
You believe it? Good.
Perfect.
Yay! All right. So we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna show a little bit of the trailer to the Hollow, and that's that. And I'll meet you back in a second. Okay. All right.